What up, y'all? What up, y'all? Lot to actually get into today. Basketball related stuff, some non-basketball related stuff that's, well, basketball related in a sense because it's stories surrounding basketball and the WNBA. But, you know, first, let me start with a message. Let me begin with a plea, if you will. Let me kick things off with a mission statement. And I understand, in a sense, this is hypocritical because I'm going to talk about the WNBA investigation and what I thought of it and all of that. But I do want to say, in general, we got to do our best to not allow people to hijack the discourse or push back against people hijacking the discourse in two directions, right? Like in one direction, it is this idea that Caitlin Clark fans and Fever fans are racist, which is just garbage. It is almost weaponized against Fever fans and Caitlin Clark fans, I think in response to her popularity. Not to say there haven't been fans that have said things out of pocket, but in general, that is certainly not a fair depiction or description of Fever fans or Caitlin Clark fans at large. And it is tiresome and exhausting that it keeps happening. On the other side of things, and I'll get back to the investigation in a sense, but I see the comment section right now. Stop falling for fake crap. Like somebody put out that Angel Reese wants a trade. That is not true. There people. I saw somebody commenting on a Brittany Griner Facebook meme earlier today, like a fake quote, and they're sitting there with their microphone and legitimately commenting on it. And same thing goes for the Brittany Griner lip reading thing. You know, it's not revenge on the way Fever fans are treated to blow that out of proportion either, when Brittany Griner clearly was not talking about Caitlin Clark, was clearly frustrated with the foul that she picked up in the game and fouled out of the game with. I'm not a lip reading expert. I can't tell you exactly what she said, but it appeared to me to be something like whack call, or that's wild, or trash call, something to that effect. And if you watch the game, the context was clearly around that. Caitlin Clark was not involved in that play. So I feel like constantly we're dealing with people over here going, Fever fans are racist. And I don't know why I'm doing that voice for them. And Caitlin Clark fans they only like her because she's white. And Gainbridge is not a safe place. Blah, 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 blah. And on the other side, you've got people going, they hate Caitlin Clark because she's white and straight. And everybody else in the WNBA is garbage. Like, most of these people doing this, or a lot of them, on one side in particular, on this side, don't watch the WNBA or basketball. And the people over here, a lot of them seem to be legacy influencer types in the WNBA space who resent the new popularity. And it's, look, I mean, to touch on the investigation for a second, I do think the investigation opened up a can of worms. And I do think the investigation put a stain on the start of the season. Not the investigation. Let me take that back, because they can investigate. The statement about the investigation. Because there's nothing wrong. I have no problem. I agree with everybody who says there's no space for any, hateful remarks or anything. Like, who wouldn't agree with that? And I have no problem with things being investigated, even if they're started, from some random Twitter rumor. You can, investigate it. Make sure your players are protected. But the statement led to the implication that these things happened. And then that led to irresponsible journalism by some of my peers in the media who presented these things as fact and went on rants as a result of said fan fiction, essentially, it feels like. And I get there's still going to be people who goes, oh, not substantiated. Doesn't mean they didn't happen. At this point, y'all, I was there. I was in the building. I can't hear and see everything, but I was in the building, and it was a normal-ass sporting event. Not to mention the fact that no one on the Fever heard anything. The Sky coach said they found out at the same time as everybody else. No microphones picked anything up. No video cameras picked anything up. No one reported on the public record of any of these things. So there is no reason to believe that anything happened that day at Cambridge. And if we're being real about it, it certainly seems like it started with internet rumors. But with so many people being so excited for the season to start, to then have this come out and remind people of what the discourse was like last year and invite people to fan the flames of said discourse this year, it put a stain on the season. And I think it hurt the morale of some of the fans. I really do believe that. Like a gut punch. Because there's only so many times a fan base can take being called racist for no reason. Especially the fan base at large. And, that's where I think the WNBA made a really bad mistake, is putting that statement out when they could have waited or put no statement out. I mean, if they investigated it quietly and nothing was found, there's no need for a statement, period. And then if, everything else, then there's, I see people talking about Angel in chat again. Angel Reese is not the reason this investigation happened. Let's be clear about that. We have to be fair. I'm going to be fair in everything I say. I'm never going to hold back on what I say, but I'm going to be fair in everything I say. Angel Reese had nothing to do from what we know for this about this investigation starting. I will say I didn't love the fact that she almost played along with it in her media availability. She said, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. And other stuff that was vague enough where she didn't, she wasn't clear about it. And I'm sure Angel's heard and been subjected to awful stuff before. But then she did go on social media platforms and and boost things that I think it was out of pocket for her to really like and boost. But she's not the reason for the investigation. It didn't start because of her. Let's be clear about that. And not everything involving Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese needs to be taken to such extremes. And I think that's part of the issue. Because again, now you've got these other folks boosting the Brittany Griner thing as some sort of got you or revenge moment when that didn't happen. And the same goes for, all of this stuff. I've never seen nothing like this in sports before. Tired of it. And I don't know. That's what I got. I'll get your guys' comments. Member chats and super chats go first. Let me go through the rest of the topics I want to get to, which include the Indiana Fever taking the court today without Caitlin Clark. This is going to be a test of that depth, the veteran leadership that they talked about. It'll be interesting to see, the support behind the Fever from the fans today without Caitlin Clark in the lineup. I think the encouraging thing is that Clark looked good at practice yesterday, walking around, shooting around. Obviously, she wasn't doing anything strenuous, but she was not moving too gingerly, which makes me suspect that this is a grade 1 kind of strain, but we will see. And then there is the opportunity for the rest of the team. This is what Fever coach Stephanie White talked about, an opportunity for the rest of the team, which includes obviously the new players, which means that, she's going to, and I think she honestly believes that the Fever need to evolve offensively. Remember, this is a coach that went against Caitlin Clark last year. She doesn't seem to fundamentally adhere to the notion that Clark being completely ball dominant is the way for the Fever to thrive. And wants the ball to spread around, and this is her chance for the team to really do that and work that out while Clark can watch and see what it looks like. Now, ultimately, I think they need a happy medium there. And Clark with the ball in her hands in transition, all that stuff is exciting. At the same time, it is going to be what the other defense attempts to stop and take away and make more difficult. So who's going to step up for the Fever? I mean, DeWanna Bonner has struggled to start the year. They need her to give them more offensively. She is the third all-time leading scorer in WNBA history. So going to need a little bit more from DB. Kelsey Mitchell, as a playmaker, going to need a little bit more from her in that regard. Not to mention Sophie Cunningham as a ball handler more. Lexi Hull, same deal. Sydney Colson stepping into the starting lineup. And I'm hoping that the Fever fans support the team. And I think they will. Again, the noise on Twitter is a lot. Because I got news for you. Like, there's nothing is being proven to the WNBA in Clark's absence. I said this yesterday, but anybody with any functioning brain power understands what Clark has meant for the WNBA, for the Fever, for women's basketball, for women's sports, for sports. If you have a working brain, the proof is already there. Anybody who doesn't admit that is in denial or being woefully obtuse. Probably the latter, more often than not. And the tickets are already paid for. The media rights deal is already done. There may be people who decide not to go to the game. Maybe there's a little bit less merchandise sales or concession sales. But in general, this is not a bottom line issue. And Caitlin Clark has talked about how proud she is of her fans and Iowa fans supporting the Fever. So I just see nothing good. You can do what you want, but I see no honor or outcome that comes from saying I'm only watching the Fever because of Caitlin Clark and I'm not going to watch and wait till you see what happens. I mean, that's the kind of thing that gives the people who criticize the fan base ammunition. Then there is the Chicago Sky, who lost again. Something's got to give when the Chicago Sky wind up playing the Connecticut Sun. Right now, those look like the two worst teams in the WNBA. Sky played a little bit better last night, but, Courtney Vandersloot was pretty good last night. I watched a bunch of that game. I thought she played well. and was the leading creator for the Sky in that game. But when you look at the Sky's stars, particularly Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese, I said from the beginning, and I've gotten criticized for it, but I'm just tired of. I'm not dealing with people criticizing me for basketball related stuff anymore. I don't care. It is what it is. It's an awkward fit. I don't think it'll ever work. Neither of them can shoot or space the floor enough for it to work. And they've tried to use Reese as a ball handler more. But look, the thing with Reese this year, she's played better in the last 2 games. She rebounds the crap out of the ball. It's like she's got magnets on her hands. She, played hard, got to the free throw line, but her shooting is not sustainable. You can't shoot. She's shooting. Now it's a small sample size, but she's shooting 31% from the floor so far in the season. That is not going to cut it. It doesn't matter what your name is or who you are or what your storylines are or any of those things. You can't be a big and shoot 30% from the floor or even 35% from the floor or 40% from the floor is also, and Reese's struggles near the basket continue. She's shooting 33% from less than 5 feet. That has to be fixed or resolved at some point, or it is going to be a problem for her career. And no players are perfect. They've got flaws. Right? I mean, Caitlin Clark missed 12 threes in a row. Obviously, she was playing a little hurt. But Caitlin Clark's three-point percentage, despite those 12 missed threes in a row, is equal to Angel Reese's field goal percentage right now. All right. I'm going to get to the chats. Member chats, super chats. Go first. Let's see what we got so far. We got JN, who says, Angel is a young kid with a lot on her shoulders. People just pile on her and disrespect her. She never asked for the investigation. Now they are blaming her. I agree with a lot of this. She does have a lot on her shoulders. People do pile on and disrespect her. And she never asked for the investigation. I'll also say, though, she didn't do anything to shut it down. She kind of played along with it. And sometimes she sort of instigates a little bit in the midst of things. I mean, hence if Caitlin Clark was reposting the stuff, and I didn't even publicize this, but if she was reposting the stuff that Angel reposted on TikTok, there would be complete and utter outrage from the Sky fan base. At least the online Sky fan base and the legacy Sky media and the legacy WNBA media. With that said, Angel Reese is not responsible for the investigation. She doesn't deserve to be flamed for the investigation starting, and she certainly doesn't deserve to be mocked and ridiculed for things she hasn't done or said. Ghost of Geraltus, does hurt morale mean fans are going to tune out? Eventually. I do think eventually you can't just continue to shit on the people who helped explode the league. When you have all these people come in and help grow the league and boost the league and are the impetus for the explosion in popularity, and they get crapped on constantly, eventually that's going to wear on them and they're going to tune out because they don't feel welcomed and they don't, feel they feel like they're being unjustly attacked. No one wants to be called a racist, especially over some basketball stuff. Like being called that's a serious, because racism is horrific and horrible, and there are racists, and there is examples of racism, but it's not a label to just throw at somebody willy-nilly, especially over basketball or without anything behind it. And it sometimes feels like this go-to thing. Like, I've had people say to me, I'm like, dog, that's an insult. Like, you are insulting me. I mean, it's like I said, like, I've spent my life operating in a different way. I teach my kids to operate in a different way. And I'm just talking about basketball. So when the season opens and the first thing is a statement to how these things might have happened, despite there being nothing to support these things happening, that once again paint one specific fan base a certain way, when there are plenty of other fan bases in red regions or whatever you want to call it, or in I don't even want to paint any place a certain way or any group of people a certain way, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that wears on a fan base. Lauren Allen, I'm hopeful that loyal Fever fans will tune in, but you don't see any change in CBA talks if drop in viewers while CC is out. Yeah, I mean, CC's out 2 weeks. Again, at this point, like, what other proof do you need? It's a tired topic. Like, Caitlin Clark is as popular as any individual athlete I've ever seen in my life. As impactful for a sports league as any individual athlete I've ever seen in my life. Why does anybody need any more evidence of this? And why do you want her teammates to suffer in the process? But the media rights deal is signed, sealed, and delivered. That's done. So I just don't see what it proves. We already know. It's like me telling you gravity works. Gravity still works, guys. You want to see it again? Gravity works. It's a force. Michelle E., did you see on Come On Now that Angel has supposedly asked for a trade? Got on late if you already commented. I don't know what Come On Now, but let me say Come On Now. No, Angel has not asked for a trade. Everybody's got to stop believing fake things. The second, like, it takes a second. And I'm not attacking anybody individually, but I keep seeing it happen, like Centel getting people or whatever it was. Where's this Angel Reese rumor? I'll tell you where it started from right now. Angel Reese trade. Okay. Where is this? Okay, here's the account that this started from, guys. All right. Eric Zhang, right here. My insider at the Chicago Sky has said that the organizations felt unprepared for the drama and are looking to de-escalate the situation rather than trade the one-time All-Star. First of all, no one would write one-time All-Star. Second of all, you go to Eric Zhang's profile. Look at the top. Look at this, photo, and then just says The Athletic. I am willing to bet this is not somebody who works at The Athletic. Eric, I'm going to look that up now. Athletic. Yeah, there's no matches when you search Eric, that name in The Athletic. So what that is a fake account trying to trick people for engagement. So no, Angel Reese has not asked for a trade. Ghost of Geraltus says the best way to discuss intersection of race and sport, I would say in good faith would be the best way. Now, I'll discuss it. Let me know what your question is or what subject you would like discussed specifically. But in fact, I would argue that sports has been historically, one of the places where race has been less consequential. Obviously not back in the day when things were segregated. Jackie Robinson had to break the color barrier in baseball. And I think there was a time that black quarterbacks were unfairly stereotyped, or moved to a wide receiver position or said that they couldn't think the game or things like that. But I think obviously that has changed as well. In general, sports are supposed to be a meritocracy. You play, you can play, you can play. And I've been covering sports for 20-something odd years professionally, and I've literally never heard race brought up in the context that it's brought up in the WNBA as often as it's brought up in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark is so far from the first great white player. She's just different than everybody else. It's her popularity that I think there's more of a backlash toward than her race. All right. Like I said, member chats, super chats go first. Let me get back up to the top here. See what I missed. There's hundreds of chats, guys. So my call asks if the Sky have what it takes to beat the Wings. Yeah, I mean, it might be tight. Might be a tight game. Alan says, let's watch the Fever Girls tonight. Dreamcatcher says, I'm watching the Fever. Brett Atwood says, the drama is what's wrong with this league. If we don't focus on basketball, we are part of the problem. There's so many comments on the Sky thing. That is not true, guys. Made up. Don't believe it. Junaid says, can you shout you suck? What is defined as hateful comments? Look, you can shout. People were chanting in NBA games, F you certain players, which I don't think is cool. I just don't see, like, come up with a more clever chant. Why would you ever say that to somebody? But it's not the same as the implications of bigotry and racism. Justin says, did you see the video of Fever fans calling Angel racial slurs outside of the arena? Not a good look, to be honest. I did see the video. I don't think anybody called Angel a racial slur. Now, some people said some things I don't think they should have said that are racially loaded. I say all the time, I try to police the comment polices. I try to, in good faith, approach people who I don't think are using things in a way that they know could be insulting or demeaning or racially charged, if you will. But yeah, there were some out-of-pocket comments made in that video. It's particularly, the word ghetto. That was the one that, stands out, and I just go, ugh, when I hear it. But there were no racial slurs outside of the arena. But if you go and you watch the Knicks fans talking about Tyrese Halliburton, you'll find another side of the same coin, in a sense, of things that were out of pocket and inappropriate that shouldn't be said towards someone. But I would hope, especially given how this has been brought to light, first of all, the person who's asking for that and doing the video knows what they're doing. They are setting it up in a sense. But yeah, Angel Reese does not deserve to be referred to in those ways. So I did see it. But I will also say there were no racial slurs used. There was stuff that shouldn't have been said and has racial implications, a few of them. But that's also not indicative of how people in the arena were behaving necessarily. But we have to, words matter. So you have to be accurate in your words, right? Like when you say somebody did something or said something, what they did or said must be accurately portrayed. But there's absolutely no excuse to refer to Angel Reese as ghetto. That's uncalled for. And that is going to lean into the perception of a fan base. Looking through the comments, guys. Said it's Scott M says, if you're not going to watch, just don't. You don't need to announce it. I agree with that too. Like, what are you guys proving? Another one of these. What is your take on BG's comments on court, which was lip read into something very hateful towards CC after BG being fouled out. She didn't say that, guys. Again, she didn't say that. It doesn't make any sense within the context of the game. She got called for a foul. She fouled out. She said something about the call. She lashed out at the refs the next game too. It just makes no sense. Had nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. The foul, I think, was in a play with Natasha Howard. I mean, I've been called white boy on the basketball court before, whatever. Like, I'll live. But regardless, you can't, it's just like it's the opposite side of the same thing I was just saying before. Fever fans and Clark fans don't deserve to be painted with some racism brush, like they're racist at large, or their rooting interest is based on race. It's insulting. It's not fair. Same thing goes for, taking Brittany Griner and attaching that. I definitely need something give me the suggestions. Best suggestion wins. I'm tired. The dead space there needs to go, especially with the white wall. It'll look better in the background. And we haven't decided what to put there. Hit me up. Let me know what the best thing for that is. But it's got to be filled. NBA Kid, are you meeting Juju Watkins at Fanatics Fest? Maybe I'll be there. I'll be at Fanatics Fest. At least one of the days. So many comments, guys. Eric says he's praying for less whack calls in the game tonight. Robin Lundberg's biggest fan says him in the bank. Are you talking about Carmelo Hayes and the Miz? That Money in the Bank coming up? I still got to get my wrestling channel with Raj up off the ground. Ernesto, I don't know how the hell this thing got blown out of proportion and now it's entitled as a race argument when we're talking about skill. Well, yeah, I mean, I do think there's another element to it where the Reese side of things, because the rivalry started back in college, right? And was based on the national championship game and the result of the national championship game and everything that ensued. And then it went into the rookie year and Reese got off to a good start and it became like this rookie of the year race early in the season, that there was almost a unspoken pressure that there was a race aspect of it when there never really should have been, and it never applied. And Caitlin Clark is far from the only white girl who's ever played basketball, and Angel Reese is far from the only black girl who's ever played basketball. And the fact that any racial implication was brought into the basketball discussion at all was foolhardy. And not healthy. Bobby Yu says, how about that Paige Becker's only player in league history to score 60 and dish 30 in their first 5 games? Paige has been great. Been great. And she's going to be great. Another white girl, by the way. Crank that 22. I don't think WNBA is fully ready of the attention like the NBA. We just witnessed a Knicks mop the jump a Pacers fan. Imagine if that was the Fever fan base. Look, I mean, I think a Pacers fan might have stabbed the Knicks fan too. And there was the thing with the trash bags outside of New York. Yeah, there was a Pacers fan charged after stabbing a Knicks fan at a brewery. I mean, unfortunately, that's an ugly byproduct of sports rooting and sports stuff that shouldn't, you shouldn't be afraid to wear an opposing team's jersey in a road arena, but that's been the case. And sports fans, nobody should behave like that, right? Like, duh. Nobody should behave like that. But a lot of this stuff in the WNBA space is like no one's ever watched or consumed a sport before. Lauren Allen says W is an activist league until called out for their contradictions, errors. Just play damn basketball and make consistent calls. It's a joke. While Tay Boogie says, how does A5 and CC have two of the worst whistles in the W? I mean, yeah, Clark doesn't get the calls I would think she would get and gets officiated very tightly on the other end. Like anything she does is a foul. Angel's down in the depths a lot, so there's going to be some contact there. She actually got to the free throw line quite a bit in the last game, but I'd have to look a little closer at her whistle or lack thereof. But I think she's down there battling for the boards, and there's going to be some contact. But the Clark aspect of it is, I think a lot of contact is allowed on her on the perimeter, and the Fever are not officiated the same way on the other side, which is the consistency aspect. Justin says, why did it take so long for A'ja to get a shoe? Racism? I mean, Asia's shoe was in the works for 2 years. When the whole Clark thing came out, in fact, I'm glad you put this up because, look, I'm done mincing words on stuff. I thought the way A'ja handled that shoe situation was awful at first because she fed into the idea. It's not her fault that Clark got a shoe. It's not her fault that her shoe took a while to produce. But at the time, the whole delayed, not denied thing, when everybody was talking about Clark getting this Nike deal and A'ja, not having a shoe, she didn't exactly do anything to help that. And she knew she had a shoe in the works the whole time. So it didn't take long for A'ja to get a shoe. It took the amount of time it takes for somebody to get a shoe, just like it's taking a long time for Caitlin to get a shoe. This is my problem. Why would the word racism be thrown into that whatsoever? I mean, and anybody who doesn't understand why Caitlin Clark got the Nike deal is out of their mind. Like, again, out of your mind. You got to be out of your mind. Your brain doesn't work if you do not understand that Caitlin Clark is far more popular than anybody else that's ever played the sport before. It's not close. It's not a debate. It's not a matter of opinion. And just like I'm saying that, her fans don't need to then go, oh, we're going to show you that this is the case. Everybody should know that this is the case. Like, gravity. Some of this stuff, like, again, like, I don't understand. Yes, the Eric Zhang thing is a fake account. Angel Reese did not demand a trade, guys. Gardenia Blossom says she's ready for a shoe. Whoever shoe you want, go buy them, by the way. The more people that get a shoe, the better. Angel, A'ja, Alyssa Thomas, Sabrina, Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, Jackie Young. Give them a shoe. Justin says Sab got a shoe deal before A'ja, despite being worse. So who was better, Allen Iverson or Tim Duncan, Justin? Better player. Who sold more shoes? Who got promoted more for their shoes? You got an answer for that? Wait. Who was a better player, Tim Duncan or Allen Iverson? Who got promoted more? Who sold more shoes? People, it's not about necessarily who the best is, who's the most marketable, who's the most popular. Asia's a big. In general, Shaq is probably the only big in the history of the NBA that I can remember being marketed like the guards. Like you don't see anybody in the NBA having a problem rocking Sabrina shoes either. And Asia has a shoe now. What's the problem? She's gotten promoted out the wazoo. Big rollout by Nike. Tulip Play says Iverson is the only AI I respect. I've never actually used AI for like anything. Maybe it'd be helpful in some ways, but it's something against it feels wrong to me. But the point was that Tim Duncan was a better player than Allen Iverson, but Allen Iverson sold more shoes. His shoes were promoted more. Did Tim Duncan even have a shoe? Tim Duncan signature shoe. I don't even remember him having one. He probably did, but yeah, he wound up having one, but it certainly didn't, land. Hell, Anthony Edwards has a popular shoe now, and he's not as good as other players. That, Jokic doesn't have a shoe, does he? Who's better, Anthony Edwards or Jokic? If you were saying, like, who's the better basketball player, I would say Jokic is the better basketball player, but Anthony Edwards has shoes. If Jokic has a shoe, he might. I've never heard of it or seen it on a shelf. I've never seen it promoted, I guess is what I would say. Everybody in the NBA has got a damn shoe, but you get the point of what I'm saying. Tay Boogie says, what's your opinion on Angel's Reebok logo? Let me look it up. I didn't see it yet. Oh, I rock with it. This is the A with that kind of halo joint going on it. I rock with it. I like it. Let me see if I can get an image up for you guys. Here, this looks to be it. I like it. Clean, sleek. Ernesto says Duncan's shoe line was called the Fundamentals. The big fundamental. Jokic has a shoe. I don't know if Jokic has a shoe or not. That's the point. I know for sure Anthony Edwards has a shoe. I've seen him promoted. I've seen, and Jokic is a better player than Anthony Edwards. And I don't see anybody talking about race or ethnicity or anything like that in regards to that. All right, guys. I'm trying to see if I missed anything of import. I do have to get out of here soon. My son has a drum concert tonight he wants me to go to, or I would have gone to anyway, but he's really has made it a point to say he wants me to see. Samantha says, what do you think the WNBA media can do better moving forward? Do you think because the W is so new to this exposure, they didn't know how to handle themselves? I think, yeah, that's part of it. I do think that's part of it. And treat it like a sport. Put on your big boy and big girl pants. I guess that's what I would say. More so than anything. But, I mean, I hope it's hard for me to say with any sort of confidence that these things won't come up again because they've come up so often. But I hope this is the last of these big, terrible firestorms in regard to fan behavior and race discussions and all that beyond basketball. But it was worth following up on because it's a legitimate story. It's not like it was made up. The WNBA put out a statement. We'll see how the Fever do without Caitlin Clark. Of course, be covering that. Thank you for your, kind words and shared sentiment. And Lindy, I don't blame people for canceling their trips. I'm just saying the people who are like throwing a fit saying, I'm not going to watch anymore. Like, okay. But yeah, if you wanted to go watch Caitlin Clark play live, I understand there's a difference there. Context matters. Individual situations matter. Take care, Tulip Plays. Until the next one, eat.